Okay. So now we have gone through why you need a good credit report, because your credit report is synonymous with your credit score, right? If you want a high credit score, you want a great credit report. If you want to keep having a low credit score, you got to have a poor credit report. So now that's why I started off with that, so I can teach, so you can learn how to analyze your credit score, learn how to analyze your credit report, so you can see what you need to do differently, what type of things need to come off of your account, and what type of things that should be on it. So now let's discuss your credit score. So that was credit reporting. Part one was credit reporting. Let's do credit score. So the 5 components of your credit score and how your credit score is calculated is on number 1, payment history. Number 2, credit utilization. Number 3, the length of your credit history. Number 4, the amount of credit inquiries, the hard ones, not the soft ones. Number 5, the various types of credit. If you notice, we've already talked about all of these back in part 1 about how to analyze your credit report, because it all goes hand in hand. Component number 1, payment history. Your credit score is largely based on your ability to pay bills each and every month on time. And that contributes to like roughly 35% of your total credit score. So especially payments made within the last 6 months. Those are the ones that affect your credit score the most at any given time, is the previous 6 months worth of payments. Number 2 component is credit utilization ratio. And what this is how much you're using, how much of the credit that's been extended to you are you using at any given point in time. And this can be calculated by you doing your current balances divided by your current credit limits times 100 equals your credit utilization percentage. So if we're talking about my secured card, right? Right now my balance is $500, I think, because it's backed by a CD, a certificate of deposit. So $500 I can use. That's how much has been extended to me. If I use $250 at any point, it looks like I'm using 50% of the credit that has been extended to me, and that doesn't look good. If I use, half of, let's say $100, that looks better. But here's another thing. Here's a key. If I am keeping that account open, and by you keeping it open with the company, that means you're using it. But every time the credit bureau checks that card to see how much I have on it is 0, that looks excellent. Because what that's saying is she's keeping it open, which means we know she's using it because the company didn't close it. But also she's not relying on it because she doesn't need to carry a balance at any point in time. So that's why I tell people, do not carry a balance. Some advisors will tell you, oh, carry the balance until the statement comes out, and that way the credit bureau can see it. They will see it anyway. The fact that it's not closed shows that you're using it. Because if you do not use a credit card over a certain amount of time, the MasterCard or Visa or, the bank or whoever you got your credit card from will close it for you. It don't even, it ain't got nothing to do with your credit report. So the fact that it's still reporting to your credit report means that you're using it. And so if it reports to your credit report at $0 every time it's reported, that looks extremely excellent. So if you start going for a mortgage loan, if you went for a auto loan, I don't advise auto loans, but if that's your thing, it is what it is. And they pull your credit report and it says that, oh, she has 3 credit cards, but all of them are at a 0 balance. It looks excellent on your behalf because it looks like you're not dependent and reliant on credit. It looks like you can use your income to stay afloat from month to month. Number 3, the number 3 component is your length of credit history. I just talked about that. The Macy's card, I had it since 2009. That long time, that over almost, 8 years, that looks very, very good. It looks like, okay, over the last 8 years, she's able to maintain her credit. She's able to maintain her payments. She's able to maintain the great use of this credit card, right? So keep those open. Even the ones that you're not using so much, keep it open. Number 4, the number 4th component is numerous credit inquiries. Again, Hard inquiries like opening up lines of credit can negatively impact your credit score if you have more than 2 within a 2-year period. It's 15% of your credit score every month. And then also, if you exceed those 2 every 2 years, it can drop your score as low as 35 points per inquiry. So let's back this up and let's talk about this. Let's say in the last 2 years, I've already gotten a mortgage loan and I already opened up a credit card, right? And then a year from now, I say, oh, you know what? I really want to get a car lease, or I really want to get an auto loan. We both know that ain't me. I don't like auto loans. I paid off 2 in the past. They are highway robbery, and I'll never advise or do it again unless my income and my net worth is so great that it can offset that car. Then I would think about it. But other than that, no. So I already have 2. I already have my mortgage, and I already have, what was the other one? A credit card. And then I went and applied for auto loan. That's going to drop my credit score 35 points, at least. At least. And then if I apply for anything else in the next 2 years after that, it's going to drop it again. And again and again and again. So you have to wait 2-year periods in between applying for two or more lines of credit. And component number 5, having various types of credit. Again, like I said, all these go hand in hand. People like to just focus on their credit score and not their credit report. But I'm here to say, if you have a poor credit report, you're going to have a poor credit score. And we just went over that. If somebody pulls, whenever the credit bureau looks every month to calculate your credit score, if they see, okay, oh, in the past she's had an auto loan, she's had a student loan, she's had 2 credit cards, and yeah, that's it. That's going to look good for me because it looks like I have a nice, healthy portfolio of different types of credit. And again, when we think of debt, we don't want to think of how can I get into debt so I can increase my credit score. That should not be your mindset. And like I was saying before, you got to teeter this line of, if I do need to take out a line of credit, I need to make sure I do it in a strategic way that I can leverage it and not allow it to financially bankrupt me, right? So going forward, that's what you should keep in mind. All right. So I'm going to give you a little snapshot that I created that will show you the ideal situation of a high credit score like mine. And again, mine is 727. That's excellent, but it's still going up because, as you can see, I have a B in the payment history because of that dang on Macy's reporting. And if you missed part 1, go back to the part 1 when I went on a rant about that. I was so mad about that. But anyway, it's still going up. So this is a snapshot of a great portfolio, a great credit portfolio that can maintain a high credit score. All right, number 1, no negative items. And again, if you're just joining for this section, definitely go back to the first section when we talked about how to analyze your credit report. 0 negative items on your credit report. 1 installment loan, either a mortgage loan. If you already have student loans, that will count as an installment loan. What an installment loan means is that it's a loan that's paid out over months. Like you already have set amounts of months that you have to pay. So each month you have to pay the exact same amount each month. It don't deviate. And usually that's a mortgage loan, a student loan, or auto loan. 2 or 3 revolving credit lines. And revolving means that the amount of money you owe each month is based on the amount of money you've borrowed. So that's credit cards, right? So from month to month, it can be a different amount that you owe based on how you use your credit card. So some months you can owe 0 because you didn't put anything on it. Some months, if you charge $100, you owe $100, or, the minimum payment of $20, whatever the case is. And so a good sweet spot for credit cards is 1 unsecured card and 1 secured. And you charge, let's say, $20 a month or $50 a month, something very low, and you pay it off immediately before you even leave where you used it. So if you say, I'm going to use my credit card as a financial tool once a month at the gas station, and I'm going to do 1 fill up a month on my credit card, that's it, right? So what you'll do is, and this is what I do, I use mine at the gas station. I fill up my card the beginning of each month. Every time, if I have to fill up right around the first of the month, I use my credit card. And I let it fill up however much it's going to be. Then I pay for it with my credit card. I get in the car, start it up. Before I even pull off from the gas station, I go online and pay it off immediately. Because it shows up immediately. You don't get the statement in the mail immediately, but it shows up online that you used it immediately. So then I just pay it off immediately and I go on about my business. I don't have to think about it again until the next month. Because remember when I gave you that example of my Macy's card, when I didn't used to do that, and I had $20 on a balance of $20 on my card, and I forgot about it, and it dinged my credit score like 60 points for a $20 thing that I missed a late payment for 1 day. I was late on my payment for 1 day after the grace period, and they reported it to my credit bureau. Dropped my credit score 60 points, and even though I paid it, and it's still reporting on my credit score to this day, and that was back in 2014. So that's why I'm super strategic, because you will get busy, and as you increase your net worth, as you increase your financial house, as you become more abundant, as you become more wealthy, the amount of things that you have to keep accountable for in your finances is going to increase. So you have to develop these habits now of being financially disciplined, being aware, paying things off immediately versus letting them sit. Because if your kids are sick and you got to go to a school play and you about to get married and your mom is in the hospital, you got to take her some soup and all these different things will have you forgetting about the minor things like making sure your credit card is paid off. And the next thing you know, you've ruined your credit score. And over something that you just completely forgot. It was completely innocent. You didn't mean to. But you have to say, you know what? I'm going to put these rituals in place so it won't even get to that point. So every month I fill up on my card and then I pay it off before I leave the gas station. So therefore, I don't get tied up at Terrence School and say, oh, I'll pay it this evening. And then next week, I have this campaign going on in my business and I get busy. Or, I have to take this family trip and I forget. No, it's already done immediately. And that's just a habit of mine. I don't even think to pull off until I go on my phone and pay it off immediately. Another thing, increase your credit limits every 6 months. This is a good thing that you can do. Even though I don't use my Macy's card that often, every 6 months I call Macy's and say, hey, can you increase my line of credit? Even though I don't use it. Right now it's like at $1,000. I started off at like $250. Now it's like $1,000, right? And every 6 months I just keep going up and up and up and up because it increases your credit utilization baseline for how much credit has been extended to you. So even though I will never use the amount that I'm asking for, it still looks like I have a lot of credit extended to me. I have the ability to borrow a lot of credit, but I don't. And remember how we talked about the perception of your credit report. You want the perception to look good because the perception should be she has the ability to ruin her credit score. She has the ability to borrow all this money, to use all this money on her credit card, but she doesn't. That's financial discipline. You have all this money sitting in your face to where you can go shopping, but you don't. That's what you want it to look like, and that's how you get a high credit score. Another thing that we talked about, correct all inaccurate information that appears on your credit report, including your personal information. So if people are starting to report a wrong debt that you don't remember, so if you have a debt in collections and you don't remember that debt, you need to verify that it's yours. One thing that my dad had to do a couple years ago when I started helping him with his credit score or his credit report, my dad name is Lonnie, right? Lonnie Jones, right? But he named his oldest son, and my dad doesn't have a last name, right? But he named his only son Lonnie LaShawn Jones, right? So my oldest brother has a middle name, but my dad does not. So whenever when we sat down and looked at his credit report, there was things that was coming from my brother to him because my dad and him shared the same first and last name. And so there were some things, some houses that it said he lived at, some addresses that it said my dad lived at, some jobs it said that my dad had that were my brother's, not my dad's. So my dad had to dispute that because it looked as if my dad was unstable. He moved in and out of homes all the time. He worked different jobs and he was unstable at a different job. So if he went for a mortgage loan or if he went for a business line of credit, they will say no because the perception of him looks unstable. So that is one thing that is your responsibility, is to make sure all of the information that's on your credit report in that personal information section is accurate. And the last thing, keep all your credit card balances zero at all times. We already know that. We already went on a rant about that. All right, I am going to end this out with a Q&A portion. So on social media, I posted some posts for anybody to just comment their current credit repair questions. And I got 3, some really, really good ones. So let's talk about it. One woman said, I just tried to ask this question in a CW group earlier. So that's Credit Warriors Facebook group. Does lending a vehicle impact your debt ratio the same way as buying one does? Does leasing a vehicle impact your debt ratio the same way buying one does? We don't currently have a car note, but we need a second vehicle. Although we are close to mortgage time, we are trying to find a solution. So what she's saying here is that her and her husband have one car right now. They want to add a second one because of their work schedule or home schedule, home life. And they're thinking like, hey, we don't have the money probably in the bank to just pay for a car that runs properly, that's reliable in the winter. Should we lease a car or should we buy one? We're wondering if we should lease a car, right? And lease a car, you're just taking on the car, and it's kind of like a car note, but after 2 years you can give the car back instead of having it until it's paid off. But they're close to mortgage time, so they're aware of taking out too many lines of credit at one point might look bad. So she's wondering what's the solution and if an auto lease shows up the same way. My answer to that is yes. An auto lease shows up the same way as an auto loan on your credit. So it looks like an installment loan, and it'll say how much the loan is worth, and it'll say how much you have to pay each month and whether or not you're paying each month. They look exactly the same on your credit report. So if you are currently trying to save for more, save a down payment, and you're thinking about, the approval process for a mortgage, and you want to make sure your debt to income ratio is low, because that's another thing. Whenever you're applying for a mortgage, they're going to look at your debt to income ratio. If your income is very close to the amount of debt you have, or if your debt exceeds the amount of income you have, you're almost likely to get told no, because mortgage companies are in the business of making money. If it looks like you can't pay money back, if it looks like you too tight, you stretch too thin, they're not going to give you money because they don't want to run a risk of not getting their money back. They don't want to go make your home go into foreclosure and harass you for their money every month. They got to pay people to do that. They're in the business of making money. So my response to her would be, look at your credit report. Have you applied and have you opened any other lines of credit in the last 2 years? If yes, your best bet is to save up for a car and buy a second car with cash. It might be a little beater, something to get you to A to B. Nothing too flashy. Excuse me. That might be the way to go, because if you're thinking in the next year or two to open up another line of credit for a mortgage, and you have a high debt to income ratio added, and you've already opened up a bunch of lines of credit, it's going to look bad, and you're going to sabotage how much you can get for a loan, the low interest versus a high interest mortgage rate, and things like that. The next question is, what are some steps to take that will help you speed up the process on medical bills that has drastically impacted my credit score? So great question. So what I can deduce from this is, if medical bills are impacting your credit score, that means they have gone into collections. Because if they're currently with the hospital or with the clinic that's asking you and sending you statements, those like clinics and hospitals don't report to your credit. Collection agencies do. So if it's impacting your credit score at this point, that means it's in collections. And if it's in collections, like with any other debt, take these 3 steps to hurry up and remove them. Number 1, save up to 40 to 60% of what you owe on the debt. So for example, if the medical debt is $900, let's say $500 to $600, right? Number 2, call the collection agency that's handling this debt and offer them a settlement for $500 to $600 instead of the $900, right? 9 times out of 10, they will accept it because they'll rather get something rather than nothing. And say, okay, this is a full payment. This is complete settlement of my debt. If you accept this $600 instead of $900, 9 times out of 10, they'll say yes. If they don't, they'll give you a number that's still lower than the $900. Excuse me. Then step number 3 is to say, all right, thank you for accepting my offer. Now can we make this into a deletion deal to where after I pay you this $500, $600 and settle this debt, you report to my credit bureau. You report to the credit bureau, all 3 of them, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, that this is a debt that has been resolved and can be removed from my credit report. Credit agencies, collection agencies can do that. They can request for something to be removed from your credit report. So that's the 3 steps. Save up a settlement offer them the settlement, and negotiate a deletion deal. And with all of this, make sure you get it in writing. Make sure you get that the $600 is in place of the $900 and your account is paid off in full. Then also make sure that they agree, that you get it in writing, that they agree to take it off your credit report. All right, the last question that I received was, when debt is overwhelming and it seems like the only way out is to start over or bankruptcy, is bankruptcy the best option when there doesn't appear like there's any other feasible option? It's overwhelming and discouraging at the same time. I feel so stuck. I think the only way out for me is to start over. When I tell you, I read this and I can just feel her energy as she wrote this, because in 2009, and I share my story, and if you haven't heard it, I'm going to share a snippet, but you can go back into my videos and I talk about it all the time. I've been there and it is debilitating. Like, if you have never been under thousands of debt and feel like it's been hanging over your head and you don't have like the income to like quickly pay off this debt, immediately you feel overwhelming and stuck. Like she nailed it. Like overwhelmed, stuck, out of options, hopeless. Like that's exactly how I felt. So I get it. But that's exactly your problem. Your problem is not the debt. The problem is you've lost hope and you've allowed those numbers on the papers that are coming in your mailbox to overwhelm you and take you out of reality. Because the reality of the situation is it's already done. The debt has already been in collections. Let's say if it's a repo, I don't know her debt. She didn't explain to me her debts. So let's say if it's the student loans have already been taken out. The credit cards have already been maxed out. All these different things that it could possibly be. The damage completely is already done. Cars repossessed, the house is in foreclosure, whatever the case is. The damage has been done. The calls and the emails and the letters in the mail with the red numbers, and that's what's overwhelming you. And you have to put it in perspective to the fact that, you know what, the damage has already been done. There's no need for me to feel hopeless. Instead of feeling hopeless, what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn the ship around and I'm going to create a financial plan that helps me get on top of these things while keeping things in perspective. And what's perspective? The fact is they'll get their money when it's time to get their money. I already know I screwed up. right? I'm going to forgive myself that I screwed up because this does suck. I do feel like a failure. I feel like, dang, how did I get myself into this? If you're married, you know, your husband arguing about it, you see him going to work and working long hours and he's stressed. You working long hours, you stressed, you know, things like that. You have to say, first of all, let's get to the reality of the situation. Everybody that's coming at me for the money that I owe them, they gonna get paid after there's food on the table at my house, the lights bill has been paid, the rent or mortgage has been paid, things like that. Then I'm going to create a plan to pay them off. I'm not going to allow myself to get overwhelmed at the constant phone calls, the letters in the mail, the emails, or however else these bill collectors are calling you. That's what you have to overcome. The debt part can be paid off. That's numbers, right? Increase your income, decrease your expenses, pay off your debt. That's numbers. Your issue in this case is you've lost hope. You allowed these numbers, these people, these companies to overwhelm you, and you can't. You cannot. You can do this. When I tell you, I'm like tearing up now because I'm thinking about my past situation. I was a single mom in college, broke, making $30,000 a year, right? I was a nurse tech because I wanted to go to med school, right? And making $30,000 a year full time, that's how much I made. And I was a new mom. And let's talk about the debt that I had. I broke my lease because I couldn't afford paying anymore. So I moved in with my mom. I had to break my lease because my lease wasn't up at a apartment. So I had to pay my lease off until they filled my apartment. I had 2 auto loans, one that I had and I paid off. And then I got with this guy who was bad news. He convinced me to get an auto loan in my name. I did it again for another $17,000 auto loan. And he skipped out on the car, so I got stuck with it. Then I had over $60,000 in student loan debt that I took out in order to support me in college because I had no money to pay for my daughter. So if you add all of that up, that's clearly over $100,000 in debt. Today, I have none of that debt, and I paid all of that off in 3 years. I got down to the bare minimum, and I'm choking as I talk about this, but I'm choking at tears of joy because truly we don't know what type of strength we have, and we don't know our capacity until we're in a situation to where we have to rise up to the occasion, right? So looking back, I just pared back, and I said, you know what? It is so embarrassing for me how old was I when I had Taryn? I had to move back when I was 21. In my mind, because of the culture of my family, I felt embarrassed moving back in. I had to move back in, right? I had to cut everything off that did not contribute to my immediate needs. So that's step number 1. Cut anything out that does not contribute to your immediate needs. And that's groceries, that's gas in the car, that's water, lights, whatever that you need to keep your house warm, keep the lights on, your rent, auto loan if you have to get back and forth to work. Everything else, it goes into a pile of, I will get to that later. You have 2 piles in your life, 2 buckets. A bucket to keep yourself going and keep your necessities, and a bucket of, I will get to that later. Everybody who's trying to collect on their debt, all these credit agencies, whether it's a home in foreclosure, your repossession of your car, whatever it is, credit card debt, whatever it is, that's your I will get to that later bucket, right? So you separate your buckets. And then you say, let me sit down and I'm going to create a budget. You're going to create your budget and you're going to say, okay, this is how much income that comes into my home. If you're married or single, calculate how much income comes into your home. That is how much money you have to, number 1, address your needs, and then address your, I'll get to those later, aka your debts, right? So when you have income coming into your home, you're going to say your income minus your necessities equals your disposable income. That disposable income is what you're going to use to pay off that debt. And the more you decrease your expenses every month and the more you increase your income, that will start to build how much money you can have to pay towards that debt. So that's number 2. Get clear and create a strategy on how you can start generating more income and you can start decreasing your expenses and what you need to live off of. So you can have more money to tackle your debt. Once you have gotten to a place where you have money to tackle a debt, that is when you create a debt repayment plan. And you get unemotional about it. You get straight-faced about it. Because during all of this, there's still going to be letters in the mail. There's still going to be the debt collectors calling. There's still going to be email. There's still going to be threatening letters with red lines and, I'm going to report this to your credit. The damage has already been done. Like, accept it. It's already done. There's nothing further that can go wrong. It's already done. So you can tell them whenever you get on the phone with them, I'm aware I owe you this amount of money. I will get to it when I can. I have created a debt repayment plan. I'm going to pay off my debts from largest to smallest, from smallest to largest, And you are the 3rd in line. You are the 1st in line. You are the 5th in line. You are the 6th in line. Well, however many debts you have that you're paying for. And you say, I will get to you when I can. Go ahead and continue to call me. But this is the message that you're going to hear every time you call my phone. I will get to you when I can. You're on my list of people to pay. I'm going to get to you when I can. And you leave it at that. You become emotionally flat to the people who are trying to collect money. And you have forgiven yourself, so you are able to go free and to clean up your mess and to take care of your family or yourself if it's just you. And you leave it at that. When I was going through this exact same situation, Taryn was a baby. I was the queen of finding stuff to do for free. I became so resourceful to making sure I had some type of standard of living that was happy and joyful, to where my daughter didn't really feel the negative effects of paring down or, paring back my lifestyle. So the 2 biggest things I did every month, top of every month, I would look on the events for the city and the events that's happening in the state. If they were free, I was at them. When there was free days at the local children's museum, I was there. Free open swim at this place, we were there. Free festival downtown, we were there, because I wanted to show her that money, and show myself that money does not equal happiness. It does not equal peace of mind. It do not equal fun and joy, right? So I had to build that in for free, because all my disposable income was going towards my debt. I was very adamant about paying off that debt. But I also wanted to maintain a standard of living that was like, okay, I still need to live too, right? I still need some happiness too. I still need some joy. I still need some fun. So if you're married and you and your husband are in this debt repayment phase where y'all digging yourself out, y'all better start looking. What can we do for free this weekend for date night? We need to get this 2-for-1 special and go out to eat every so often, right? That is the mindset you get into. Another thing I used to do was always have game night. And then the people that I invited, they always had to bring some food, some drinks, and they always had to bring games. So therefore, I wasn't just the only one. I was able to enjoy my people, enjoy my friends, enjoy my family, right? We have adult game night, or we have outings with the kids or whatever, somewhere that was really cheap or free. But yet everybody absorbed the cost, not just me. The financial burden was not just on me. So therefore, you can still have fun. You can still hang out with your friends. You can still build relationships, even though you're in a financial trench. And nobody has to know. It's all about your mindset. Once I got the mindset to saying, you know what? This debt, yeah, it sucks. Yeah, my choices were poor. But the reality of the situation was nobody taught me how to manage money. I was out here between 18 and 21 damaging my financial life because I was not trained on how to do anything otherwise. And I accept that. And I've forgiven myself. And I'll go free to just paying off that debt when I can and living my life. Period. So that is the place that you have to get to if you're feeling overwhelmed and stuck and this is too hard. This is too heavy. I see no ending. I see no end in sight. There is an end in sight. There's a mean to an end. And to be honest, it was because of my financial hardship back in 2009 that prompted me to start taking financial classes in college and prompted me to start building a financial coaching business. And, I had to say to myself as I was getting out of it, I said, I know this deliverance from my situation do not stop with me. And so it was then when I promised God, I said, you know what? Once I get to a certain place, I promise you I'll help others. I will help others. So instead of going to medical school like I had planned, which I would have gotten to more debt, I built my business and I began helping others like you overcome financial hardship because I truly was aligned with my God-given purpose. So sometimes we think like, woe is me. Why is this happening to me? But actually what you're going through is qualifying you to talk about what it is that your purpose is. If I never went through that situation in 2009 and I read your question, I wouldn't have much words for you. I would have not been able to empathize and sympathize with you. I would not know the shoes that you were sitting in. But because I had to go through that, I can say, girl, I've been there, done that. This is what you need to do. This is the mindset you need to have. Here's some tips and tricks on how to get out. Once you get out, help other people because that's paying it forward. Somebody helping you. You need to give these same tips and help somebody else. And again, it's all about paying it forward. And that's why I switched my life and said, you know what? I'm getting off of my plan and I'm getting on God's plan. And God's plan was me helping women financially in their financial lives. I wanted to help women. I wanted to be a dermatologist and as a doctor of dermatology and help people with skin, hair, and nails and things like that. I still am able to help women, which was the only thing that I love to do. But instead of helping women in a doctor's office, in a dermatologist's office, I help them financially every day like you. So once you get into alignment and once you start seeing like, dang, the reason why I went through that was because it qualified me, it's a game changer. So look for things as you're getting out of debt saying, okay, I need to teach somebody else how to do this. Oh, that's good. This is how I just did this. I need to teach somebody else how to do that. Who's where I am or where I just was. Teach somebody who's 2 steps behind you. So then you will start to be grateful and thankful of where you came from. So you can be reminded of like, dang, I was just right here. Now I'm over here. Now I'm teaching her. It was to a point where I needed a teacher. Now I can teach her. I'm telling you, that mindset will change the game for you. And yeah, like I hope you got a lot out of this credit maintaining webinar. It definitely was a lot longer than what I expected, but or this live stream, not webinar. If you have any other questions, definitely drop them in the comments below and I can answer them online in one of my next live videos. And I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.